What's up, Helix fans? Nick Cutroneo here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to check out the newest firmware update for Line 6's Helix Firmware 2.60. This firmware update gives us the two clean channels of the previously released amps in 2.5, which are the Lonestar clean as well as the Friedman BE-100 clean channel. In addition, we get 3 dirt boxes, a treble booster, plus 2 versions of the Boss DS-1. The firmware also updates a whole bunch of other things, including a 1-button looper function on the Helix and other under-the-hood things for the different effects, as well as updating the sounds of the HX reverbs. I'll provide a link down below with the complete release notes, and I'm going to do a complete separate video for the revised reverbs. So without further ado, let's take a look at the new amps. So what I have called up is the channel 1 of the Lonestar, Cali, Texas channel 1. And these are the stock amp settings. And all I did to the cabinet, as usual, is I've done my low and high cuts. And let's take a listen. So I'm on the bridge pickup of my Gibson SG. Here's the middle. And then finally the neck. That's the stock settings. Pretty dirty sound. I kind of wasn't expecting that from the stock settings. Still has a very nice clarity to it, even though it has a really beefy low end. And things to know about this amp is that the clean channel of this really became very popular and was actually the circuitry and sort of the ideas of this clean channel started to find its way into other Boogie amps like the updated rectifiers plus the Mark V series, and you would see that as the fat clean. Let's take a look and try and get some clean tones from this. Let's give a little bit more bass. It's a really nice clean. We'll bring the presence down a little bit. What if we bring up the drive a little bit? Maybe a little bit more? That's not a bad clean sound. Let's drive this guy. So with that drive up all the way, I'm liking the sound of it, except on the bass strings. It's a little too flubby for me. Let's bring down the bass a little bit and see. That's better already. So definitely a really cool amp that you can get some really great cleans out of, and then also some really good, some really nice overdriven sounds. It's not going to be too overdriven, but you know, also remember that in Boogie amps that the treble makes a big difference in the gain staging. So let's see what happens as we push that treble up a little bit more. We can definitely hear it adds a little bit of gain, but not too much actually. You know, artists like Andy Timmons, they would run the bass all the way off on this guy, on this amp, and still have plenty of bass in their signal. So just a killer sound, yeah. Let's take a listen now to the Placater. Again, in this amp, these are the presets that I've got up on the screen, and then with the 412 cabinet, all I've done is I've changed the high and low cuts to what I use, which is the 120 and 6000. So let's take a listen. So these are just the stock settings here. Yeah, not bad. Definitely less gain on tap on this channel. So, yes, so the master on here is at 10, so that's going to interact with the jive and probably push the amp a little bit harder. Let's bring the master down to half. See, use the drive. So interesting, with the master down, the clean sound gets a little bit bassier, and with the drive, obviously, it's not driving the amp nearly as much as it was with the master cranked, which would make sense. Let's see what happens if we turn down the bass. Maybe bring up the presence a little bit. The drive a little bit. Let's bring up the master a hair. Let's go in the in-between sound. So let's drive this amp a little bit. Obviously the master is gonna have a big to do about this, so we'll bring down the channel volume first. Drive that master, see what happens. Those are all the same stock EQ settings. All I did was bring up the drive all the way and the master all the way, pulled back the channel volume, and that makes a pretty good, nice sort of basic rock crunch tone, which is pretty awesome. Let's see. So let's go back to, let's stay here actually, and we'll take a listen to the bright switches that we got going on here, right? So that's that bright switch on 2. Let's see it on 1. That's it on 1. It's got a slight effect, but not a huge one. It seems to just dull the sound a little bit in the basses, which makes sense. Turning off the bright sound, having it on. But let's bring this back to a clean sound, and let's try it out from there. So there's our bright sound at 2. Let's bring it to the bright on the setting 1. Back to off. Kind of subtle, and it definitely sort of tames that high end. There's a little bit less sparkle on the trebles. So, you know, there's that bright switch. Yeah, so those have been both the amps. I think some very cool features, nice additions to the Helix. And let's take a listen now to the effects. We're going to take a listen to the new effects, and what I have called up here is the twin reverb amp, and I put in the Magic 6 settings. This is sort of my favorite settings on all these blackface amps. But let's take a listen to now the DS-1, have them go a little bit side by side. So here we go. So first let's just take a listen to the stock sounds here. So there's that vintage DS1. Little high-endy. Bring down the tone a little bit. Got it to smooth out a little bit. Still sort of has a very big mid-range sort of honk to it. Let's take a listen to the modded version. These are the stock settings. To me, immediately is a little bit more usable, for lack of a better word. The tone isn't as harsh as you go up, especially. This is a pretty trebly amp to start with, so the treble is going to be there. Let's pull that tone back a little bit. Goose some gain a little bit. So that's pretty interesting. I raised the gain up a little bit, and it sort of smoothed out the high end a little bit. Let's add some little bit more gain. Try again. The level is pretty low on this compared to the other one, which also might make a little bit of difference. Let's take a look at what the clipping. So we were at asymmetrical. Let's take a look at symmetrical clipping. Seems to me like the symmetrical is maybe a little bit more fuzzy, whereas the asymmetrical is a little more amp-like, if that makes sense. That's just my own personal observation. So I've got here the bright channel of the Brit J45, set relatively clean. So if you hit down really hard, it's gonna break up a little bit. A little bit of hair on a little bit of compression. So let's work with both of these drives and just sort of mess around with it, get some good sound. So here's the vintage. So this is the unmodified drive. Let's pull down the level a little bit. So let's actually just set these guys at 5. So definitely super fizzy. There's a cool sound with that treble boosted a little bit. Very reminiscent of early Joe Satriani tones. Let's take a listen to the mod. Already sort of thickened up a little bit. That sort of shrill high end is kind of gone. Let's see. Let's boost up the tone a little bit. It's already a little bit clearer. I don't feel as sort of fuzzy compressed where I don't hear the clarity of each note. Sort of, you know, this bass line, right? Versus where if I go back to the other one, there's a lack of clarity. A little bit more fuzzy sound, and I think that has to do with the asymmetrical versus symmetrical. So I put the symmetrical on. That sort of sound. It's hard for me to describe it. Probably the best way is just there's note definition. When you have the asymmetrical on in the modded version. To me, it's a little bit more usable, and especially the tone frequencies, although getting up in the higher tone frequencies of the vintage was interesting, sort of created this interesting sort of filtered notch sound. So what I have called up here is I have an AC30 in the normal channel. This is the Fawn model versus the Essex A30, which is the top boost. We all sort of know what's happening with this Rangemaster Treble Booster. This is definitely for the Brian May fans here. So what I have is, again, my low and high cuts, and this is the core sound before. I haven't touched the bass or treble. I have goosed the gain, the drive sound. Let's go ahead and turn on the Rangemaster. Definitely Brian May-ish sound. Obviously, you're not going to get his sound without his guitar and those classic pickups, but pretty darn close to it. I think maybe a little bassy to my ear, so maybe I'll pull back the bass of the Deranged Master. I believe that the original treble booster that this is based off of didn't have bass and treble controls, so you get this added tonal expression that you can help to mold and craft the sound, probably to help tailor it to the instrument that you have. Definitely go to feedback, and I'm sitting right in front of speakers, so you can kind of get a sense of that. But let's see what happens rolling off that volume. That's kind of cool. Very chimey sort of sound. I mean, certainly very dull sounding without the treble boost. Cool, yeah. Let's take a listen. We got a level control here too, which is gonna obviously probably boost the sound a little bit. You can hear all of the hiss and everything. I'd be having a noise gate in front of this, definitely, if I were using this live. Let's see. Whew, so much noise. So the level control, to me, it's not, because there's so much drive and so much pushing this front end, you're not going to hear a level, excuse me, a level boost. Here it is at 0. And now I'm going to pull it full on. So I'm going to hit it at 0 and then sweep it all the way up. So it's really just about hitting that amp harder. You're not going to get, at least with the drive up at this amount, you're just not going to get a volume increase. It's already compressed beyond all hell. Let's bring this down though. Let's sort of see. That almost becomes a little bit more usable. Holy jeez, that is a lot of gain, a lot of signal. So that's kind of cool. You know, I think that, you know, this really has a nice singing, sustaining quality with the drive obviously up higher. The great thing about Helix is that you can set snapshots. You know, it opens up a lot right around here. You get a really nice rhythm to it's back further, like here. That when you have the volume down, it just doesn't have that same bark. But then going for a solo, you could change snapshot, have, you know, the drive go up, bring the level down. Wonderful thing about Helix. And now you've got a great lead tone. From there, let's see, let's try something. We'll go back down to here. We did some clean samples with this. Very touch responsive, very, very cool, easy to clean up. I'm getting that cleanup sound I'm using the in-between, not in-between, but the middle position. So I've got both of these pickups, and I've got these guys rolled off to like almost off. They're probably on like 2. Just a little bit of hair if you really pound it. Alright, so there you have it, the amp models and effects in the Helix Firmware Update 2.60. I plan on doing a follow-up video with this, taking a look at the updated reverbs as well. If you haven't seen it already, I already have done a video demoing the new reverbs. You can find them somewhere in the cards up to your right, my left. So if you've made it to the end of this video, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate your support. Please give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please think about subscribing to my channel. Make sure that you hit that bell notification button. That way you get notified every time I release new content. And I'll see you guys all in the next video.